Is marriage just for offspring? Not according to the Thomistic Institute in D.C., the New Dominicans. Their position is not only Homo 101, but divorce, annulment, contraception, and transgender 101. Today's Dominicans resemble St. Thomas Aquinas only a little bit better than today's Jesuits resemble St. Ignatius. So we're going to go through their new video on the purpose of marriage. It's a doozy. Hang on to your hat. I'm John Farrell, your NFP spiritual dictator. This is annulment proof.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything? Have you ever had a dream?
That is exactly what's going on with our NFP and how it's... turn these guys, I don't know if I can turn it down. Anyway, this NFP stuff and how it's destroyed the legal basis of marriage. That is what we're going to get into, okay? And this new video from the Thomistic Institute serves it up so... I can't... Let me get into it. Let's just get to this video. I got to get... This thing is crazy, and it's so... how should I put it? The stuff they use, the word salad, the legal schmoozing comes at you machine gun, like drinking through a fire hose. It's only 9 minutes, but it's probably going to take us an hour to decode each word. These guys aren't stupid, but boy, oh boy, is this smooth. Where is that video? Okay, so by the way, we're going to do this video first, and then I have all the notes. I'm going to give all the receipts to all the things I assert in this video, okay? So that's going to be the second half. It'll be good. Let's push play and see what the heck we got.
They say that you don't know where you're going unless you know where you're headed. Well, if they don't, they ought to. The point is, without a destination, a journey is bound to be aimless. And
that's right. And of course, he's getting into marriage now. Okay, so duh. Okay, sorry, I'll talk too much. Go ahead.
What's true of trip planning holds for sacramental life. So what then is the goal or end of marriage?
We must only speak of the end, okay? There's no goal of marriage. The goal of marriage could be whatever we want. But the end of marriage is nature because it's an office of nature. And that's procreation.
Offering consent to a lifelong bond where...
Sorry, okay. This is going to be difficult. Bear with me, guys. Be patient. I'm telling you, this whole video is 7 minutes long. That's all it is. But it's packed with crazy. Let's rewind just a little bit. Here we go.
In offering consent to a lifelong bond.
Consent to a lifelong bond. Well, that sounds great. What are you actually offering consent to? To bodily rights. A bond is not something you consent to, a lifelong bond. You consent to permanent right over the body. That's what you consent to. That's smoke screen number 1 from these guys of about 42, okay?
Where exactly are married couples headed?
Where are they married? Okay, sorry. Where are they headed? Well, they're headed for destruction because you have two different natures fighting against each other, which is what I've been saying for a long time. And this is no exception, these guys. This is like the tip of the spear of smooth operator modernism, Dominican groovy, all right? Here we go.
The church speaks of two ends of marriage.
Stop. The church speaks of two ends of marriage. That's like Vatican II saying a bunch of poetry. The church teaches there's one end of marriage, the sole purpose, per Council of Roman Catechism, procreation. The church teaches there's one purpose. This church can speak of all sorts of things, but actually, the church doesn't ever say there's two purposes of marriage. They say, the Humanae Vitae says there's two significances because it's a sign of Christ and his church, okay? It's a sign, but it's not a purpose. And then canon law, the new canon, doesn't even say that. It says the nature of partnership, which is not the nature of marriage, okay? It's just a more sleight of hand stuff that unless somebody points this out, everyone just drives by and does not notice. Now then.
The procreation and education of children, or the procreative end, and the mutual support of the spouses, or the unitive end.
Stop. Hold it. Hold it. What do you think I'm going to say? I'm going to make him a little bit bigger. What do you think I'm going to be? The unitive end. Oh, spare me, dude. Spare me. Listen. Nature has one purpose, biology, right? Procreation. But now he's saying we have two purposes which, if they're both rights, if they're both the foundation, marriage has no primary purpose, which is impossible. So something has to be primary. And of course, he's going to actually say the quiet part out loud later in this video that procreation, that quote, unity, whatever that is the new primary. Lila Rose will tell you the same dang thing. The NFP mediatrix. Love is primary. That's what she'll tell you. So will Christopher West in so many words, but they can't come out and say it. This is why I have to push pause so much. Let me just say something really quick. So we got Father Ripperger and we have, who else? Timothy Gordon. If you ask them, what is this unitive stuff? What is the unitive end? He'll say, no, it just means the physical, it just means the physical act, which is they're hiding. No, that's not what it means. That means the love thing. It means the feelings. That's what they're talking about, as in it means consent every time. That's what it means. That's what these guys are saying, but they don't come out and say it because you're trying to bolt on Protestantism into Catholicism, and it doesn't work. Of course, this is the modern thing. We can say Aquinas approved of Aquinas wasn't a 6-day Earth creationist. He was super old Earth. Or Aquinas is gay marriage. Or Aquinas is trans. Or Aquinas is all these contraception, NFP, whatever. No. But this is the goal of these guys. These modernists, they want to take St. Augustine, Aquinas, any of them, and make them modern. But you can't do it, and we're going to try to expose some of this stuff. If unity is a purpose, then, like I said, marriage has no primary purpose because it's got two, and you can't have two heads. You got to have one goal. One primary, one comes first. One has the essence. The other is secondary, okay? So the one is independent, one is dependent, but they're not saying that. But if unitive is just the physical act, that's like saying, you can drive a car as long as you're driving a car. You can swing a baseball bat as long as you're swinging a baseball bat. It goes without saying. So, like the conjugal act is the conjugal act. No, you don't have to make sure legally that the conjugal act is the conjugal act. You don't have to. It's stupid. So, but they just, again, this is drive-by stuff. Father Ripperger will get on there and say, the unitive element, which just means the physical, and Timothy Gordon will try to say that too, but he can't. It makes no sense. So I keep asking Timothy Gordon, what is the unitive end? The answer is no comment. All right, then. Keep going.
Let's say a word about each and then coordinate them in turn. First, the procreation and education of children. In brief, marriage is for offspring. That's what sets this relationship off from other relationships.
Totally right. Totally correct. It's for offspring. Yes. So again, these guys talk out of both sides of their mouth. You just wait.
Marriage, we have said, entails a comprehensive sharing of life with its spiritual, psychological, emotional, and physical dimensions.
Oh, no. Sounds gay, okay? Look at. Back up, dude. Sorry. It's father so-and-so, whoever you are.
We have said entails a marriage is for offspring. That's what sets this relationship off from other relationships. Marriage, we have said, entails a comprehensive sharing of life with its spiritual, psychological, emotional, and physical dimensions.
So if that's all true, all this spiritual, psychological stuff, then that means that stuff is essential, which means you have a right to get these things, and that has to be, it ends up becoming the default, becoming primary. This is why if you approve NFP, you approve, that's where love wins comes from. That's why all the gays say love wins, okay? You cannot stop divorce, easy annulment, contraception, and NFP, or transgender, because nature is love per this guy right here. He is saying this comprehensive list of undefinable things legally is marriage. And since Aquinas will say marriage is an office of nature, he is saying that all this psychology is nature. And if you have a right to it because it's what you consent to, you have you have a right to basically be happy. Don't you have a right to be happy? You've heard that. That's where that comes from.
Other relationships, other friendships may involve a high degree of sharing, but only marriage can claim to be comprehensive.
Only marriage can claim to be comprehensive. No, only marriage can claim to be procreation is the natural purpose. The other relationships, But if you say marriage is comprehensive, that means all the stuff that homos have. Let's look. He had a nice little homo picture there earlier. Just a minute.
Emotional and physical dimensions.
Woo.
Other relationships.
See these two homos right here, or whatever they are, nice guys. Who the heck? Okay. They are getting all into the emotional and the psychological and everything, and that is the new if that's natural marriage, these guys are naturally married, all right? Procreation, as long as they're open to life, you know what I mean? Okay? So that's why I say it's Homo 101. If you don't have procreation primary, the true purpose, then that's okay. There's one other thing I'm going to talk. I got to write the note down just a second. Okay, I added something to my notes for later. Here we go.
Other friendships may involve a high degree of sharing, but only marriage can claim to be comprehensive.
High degree of
Without
sharing.
being reductionistic, we can say that the physical dimension, as part of what is vowed and sanctioned in marriage, thus differentiates this relationship from others like it.
Without being reductionistic. I told you they come fast and furious with the little crazy words. So we need to reduce his words to true meaning here, okay? Hold on.
And say that the physical dimension, as part of what is vowed,
hold it.
Only marriage can claim to be comprehensive. Without being reductionistic.
Without being reductionistic. I'm sorry. Hold on. We have to be reductionistic if we are speaking about marriage. The broad definition of marriage, the wide definition spoken of at the Council of Trent and in Casti Connubii 23 and 24 entails all that stuff you're talking about. The emotional, the psychological, the mutual help. In other words, the white picket fence, the feelings, the hugs, the group photos. Everything, the sharing, the trying to get everyone to heaven, the praying together, the reading each other's minds, the body language, all that stuff, man. Those are all part of marriage, but not in the institutional sense, the legal sense, the restricted sense, the reductionist sense. The only thing that's in the narrow sense, which is where the rubber meets the road, the law, is procreation and none of that other stuff. So what we have done, our big lie of the day, our big heresy, I call it, what do I call it? The unitive heresy, the Unitarians. He's a Unitarian. These Unitarians are saying that the wide definition of marriage is now the restricted definition. In other words, there is no restricted definition, meaning there's no primary purpose. Everything's a purpose. Everything is marriage. Everything is awesome. I should play that song at the end too, but we're not. I got a different song for you. I got to write that down for next time. Hold on. All right, so let us continue with his not to be reductionist, because that steps on toes. Because he can't tell us what the reductionist definition of marriage is. He won't dare do it because it blows his whole thing apart. Here we go.
We can say that the physical dimension, as part of what is vowed and sanctioned in.
The physical dimension is part of what is vowed. That is correct, but the physical dimension is the only thing in the contract. It's the biology of the body. It's biology only, the right over the body for acts suitable for the generation of children, which are of themselves suitable. In other words, independent of anything else. That is the object of consent. None of this psychology, lovey stuff. Sorry.
Marriage thus differentiates this relationship from others like it. It's with this understanding that St. Thomas refers to marriage as the greatest friendship and the partnership of the whole of life.
Now, St. Thomas Aquinas refers to this relationship as the greatest friendship and the partnership of the whole of life. No, he does not. We're going to have to cut to our notes really quick, because when I started hearing this, I'm like, wait a minute. Did St. Thomas, let's just listen to this again. Remember I told you they wanted to make St. Thomas into a modernist, right? So let's listen to what no one else is going to tell you except me, your NFP spiritual dictator. Let's go back. Bro, sorry, here we go. Father, I don't know what his name is. Here we go.
Differentiates this relationship from others like it. It's with this understanding that St. Thomas refers to marriage as the greatest friendship and the partnership of the whole of life.
Duh! The greatest friendship and the partnership of the whole of life. I'm going to pull up that quote real quick. All right, here's when St. Thomas Aquinas says, and Contra Gentiles or whatever. Furthermore, the greater that friendship, the more solid and long-lasting it will be. Okay, so the greater the friendship, the more solid and long-lasting the friendship will be. But marriage doesn't depend on friendship, but if it's a great friendship, it will be solid and last longer. Now, because there seems to be the greatest friendship. So marriage isn't the greatest friendship. It says there seems to be. This is the part. See, I told you we got to look at their quotes, man. There seems to be the greatest friendship between husband and wife. So it is not required that there's any friendship at all. No requirement, because in the reductionist sense, as he said, the restricted, the legal sense, it's only for biology. So there seems to be the greatest friendship between husband and wife, for they are united not only in the act of fleshly union, which produces a certain gentle association, even among beasts, but also in the partnership of the whole range of domestic activities. So there's some partnership there, of course, but that's not the essence. So they have friendship, they are united in union, which produces gentle association, but it also produces partnership, okay? So the primary purpose is biology, flesh, right there. Boom. Flesh, that's primary. That's the reason, that's the purpose. Secondarily, it's the contract which begets the gentle association, the partnership. That's all secondary, it's not essential. Consequently, as in sequence, consequently, as an indication of this, man must leave his father and mother for the sake of his wife. Okay, therefore it is fitting that matrimony to be completely in his own. So, and I'm going to get more into this, what this means in a minute. But let's go back to the video. Hold on. Okay, hit it.
But the procreative end of marriage isn't a matter of mere baby making, as
the procreative end of marriage isn't a matter of mere baby making. Wow. I wonder what he means by that, because what is the difference between real baby making and mere baby making? So he just, again, these guys try to communicate a certain truth, which is love wins, but they don't come out and say it. That's why we're exposing them. I hope I get some sort of response from them. I wish I should have probably figured out this priest's name, but anyway, I could look it up. Here, let's listen.
If the sole purpose of marriage were to repopulate the earth. As it turns out, any fertile couple end of marriage isn't of the whole of life. But the procreative end of marriage isn't a matter of mere baby making, as if the sole purpose of marriage were to repopulate the earth.
Now, see what this is like, kind of Democrat talking points where they're going to say something like it's the police that are causing all the violence and all the conflict. Okay, so he just said that marriage isn't just for procreation, as in we have to populate the whole earth. Well, it is just for population, and it used to be because we have to populate the whole earth, but it's no longer a precept, as St. Thomas Aquinas will tell us. And I think I wrote that down in my notes, but these guys don't go there. It's no longer a binding precept in the New Testament because celibacy is number one. It's a higher calling. It's better. Celibacy is better than getting married, so you don't have to produce kids. It's not a precept. There is no duty to produce babies at all. There's no obligation to exercise your conjugal rights. So he's trying to say that, hey, you don't have to populate the earth, and so it's not just for procreation. This is the destruction of marriage, which came in the 60s via love wins. They did it to get all the homo stuff, and then they wanted because the secular world was offering contraception, so we needed to be able to offer NFP. And how do you do that? You make love number one. And the secular world was offering no-fault divorce. So how do you do that? You make now that you've made love number one, there is no contract because you can't put love in a contract. So you have no fault divorce is not a sin. And if there's no love in the room or some lack of total love, 99% only, then you get the annulment. So we get contraception and divorce and annulment, and right out of the bag, just because we changed the definition that started in the 60s. And these guys, the politics, I don't blame them. There's nothing else they can do other than come clean, and then they lose everything. You're going to be living on the streets with everyone in D.C. if they start saying the truth. You're out. OUT, out.
As it turns out, any fertile couple can achieve that end. So it's not just procreation that's at stake, but procreation and education of children, or...
So, correct. Procreation and education. That's right. So, but they're communicating that marriage is more than just baby making. Yeah, it's procreation, education, but they're trying to get you to think that it's about love too. Okay. Oh, this kid, I'm going to tell you who I think this kid looks like later in the video. These drawings, this whole slick stuff bugs me. Sorry, it does. Hang on.
What St. Thomas refers to as the promotion of family. Marriage is ordered to the raising of children, to their humanization, their formation. This helps us to make sense of some of the Church's teachings about sexual intercourse. It's, in part, because of the education bit, that the Church, that God, only blesses sexual intercourse between spouses. Again, it's not mere baby making. It's about the raising of children and marriage.
Look at this kid. There. It's about the raising of children. Hang on a second. Sorry, hold on.
Raising of children and marriage ensures the support of both mother and father, the support of the family in this difficult effort. Marriage fixes wife and husband in the relationship upon which their children's lives are then established.
Oh, hold on. Let's parse that just a tiny bit.
On which their children's lives are then this difficult effort. Marriage fixes wife and husband in the relationship upon which their children's lives are then established.
I guess there's some truth there. It depends on what you mean by relationship, but it establishes the contract. And if you have the contract of husband and wife living together, and she has the right to stay home, therefore he has to work, and there's the marital debt. Her salvation is through child production. Her salvation is through procreation. So she can't stop and he can't stop. That's the foundation of the family right there. The rest is icing on the cake. Like Aquinas said earlier, what flows from it, okay?
Marriage supplies the requisite security for the flourishing of children.
How does marriage supply the requisite security for the children, the well-being of children? Where's this security? Because anyone can do a no-fault divorce, can't they? Divorce is not a sin. You get communion. These guys all give communion to divorcers, all of them. Where's the security? Just like Pearl Davis is talking about. Why get married if there ain't no security? Because if somebody with all this deep psychological stuff they're thinking is they're right, they can blow out on you when they want to, or if they feel it bad enough. So as I think it says in Arcanum 41 or something, once you let the fire out of the fireplace, once you let the boundaries of divorce out, there's nothing that can hold them. The only thing that can hold them is procreation primary or damnation or anathema. That's it. Okay, so you have people of goodwill saying, hey, it's so much more than procreation, and it just takes hold. Next thing you know, you got that downward spiral starting. Once you start this nice little family here, this nice little nuclear family on, there's got to be more to this than just making babies. And there's got to be more than just this. I'm just work, what? It is what it is, man. So that's where the security comes from. If you violate the contract, you go to hell. There's the security. And you get removed from the sacraments. No Christian burial, nothing. No communion if you bail on your contract. That all disappeared when love won in 1965. All separations happen on church property at separation court, not civil court, ecclesiastical court, all of them. If you were a good Catholic, that's where you went. Now those are all gone because there is nothing to judge except private, subjective definition of love, psychology, needs, all that stuff. All that Homo 101 stuff. Continuing.
This also helps us to understand why the church forbids the use of contraception or other illicit sexual practices in marriage. Contraception works contrary to the procreative end.
Ooh, contrary to the procreative end. Yeah, it sure does. I don't know why he goes like this. What's the big deal? Wait, because he gets a little sideways on this, as I recall. It's been a few days since I watched this. Hang on.
Is in marriage. Contraception works contrary to the procreative end in a way that frustrates or perverts the expression of married love.
Oh no! You're killing me, dude! No wonder he acted so goofy. Oh no! It perverts. What did he say? I told you this is going to get weird. I told you. Hold on. Look at that. Oh no! God, this guy.
Contrary to the procreative end in a way that frustrates or perverts the expression of married love.
It frustrates and perverts the expression of married love. That is pure anti-Aquinas, Gaudium et Spes, mega goo. Okay, that's a new theological term that comes from super smart people like me. Mega goo. Okay, that's what that is. He's saying love wins. Love is number one. Love is the foundation. Love is the legal basis. So we have to express our love in a certain way. Okay, so this distorts the order. We must have a hierarchy of ends. And guess what? You know what? I'm going to push pause and find out what this guy's name is. Just a minute. Okay, I found out. Father Gregory Pine. That's him. Father Gregory Pine, Dominican. What was he saying now? Oh, yeah, the love thing. Love wins. Let's see it one more time. He's reading a script. I don't know how long these guys stayed up at night making the script to make sure, because they're trying to say 2 + 2 is 5, and we're going to make that or procreation is secondary. That's all that theology of the body is, and it's the NFP that's destroyed it. And these guys have to keep the status quo up, just like Cardinal Burke, just like all of them. So they've got to bend and contort and take no questions and put out the slickest video they can possibly do. Here we go.
End in a way that frustrates or perverts the expression of married love.
He said the word order.
Practices in marriage. Contraception works contrary to the procreative end in a way that frustrates or perverts the expression of married love.
No, it's the order that matters, not the expression of married love, because married love flows from the contract. Married love is not the contract, okay? Charity, you can have charity anywhere, okay? Just like with the homos, all right? So charity is not the essence of marriage. The physical contract is. Sounds rough, sounds mean, sounds cruel. It is what it is. And when you start making marital love nature means whatever you want it to mean. Hello trans, hello homo.
It thus falsifies what St. John Paul II calls the language or the nuptial meaning of the body.
Ah! Falsifies the language or the I'm going to put that back. The language of the body. It falsifies the language of the body. Whatever. There is no language of the body, okay? And if you want to have body language, that's not the basis of marriage. Whoa! You're not reading my body language. You remember those blue jeans from like 1980 called Body Lingo? Now then, the language of the body. Did I say enough about this? I'm going to rewind just because. Hang on, here we go.
Hurts the expression of married love. It thus falsifies what St. John Paul II calls the language or the nuptial meaning of the body.
So it doesn't matter if it falsifies the nuptial meaning of the body. It doesn't matter because there is no nuptial meaning of the body that is essential. The only nuptial meaning of the body is you have to stay one flesh with somebody, which means you have to live under the same roof because Christ and his church are inseparable. And if you have to separate, you do it through the ecclesiastical judge, because no one may lay claim to that contract, which is all divorce is, which is why every divorce is a sin, every single one, because someone lays claim to the contract that you're not allowed to. That's like me going ahead, ramming my car into the bishop's residence and taking his mitre and his crozier and boogieing with it and playing bishop. I'm laying claim to, hey man, I'm going to go create some bishop rules now, because look, I got the mitre, I got the crozier. Back off. That's all it is. That's all you're doing with a divorce. You're saying, move over, bishop, here comes something meatier. But I can do it now because marriage is love, because Father Gregory Pine told me so. Woo, this pose is crazy.
To the procreative end in a way that frustrates or perverts the expression of married love. It thus falsifies what St. John Paul II calls the language or the nuptial meaning of the body.
I always make jokes too. If the husband is not feeling it on his job, it's falsifying the language of his body. He should stay home, get a 24-pack, and just tell his wife he doesn't want to lie with his body anymore. He's going to lie on the couch, right? Because it's like, I can't work anymore. I'm not feeling respected. I can't do it. Nobody cares about me anyway. I get no respect, like Rodney Dangerfield. So he's lying. He can't tell any more lies with work. He's got to stay home and be true to himself.
It holds back part of what is intended by the very logic of conjugal love.
It holds back part of what is intended by the very logic of conjugal love. What a mouthful of trash. See how we got to go slow through this thing? A 7-minute video is going to take 2 hours. Hopefully not, guys. Hang on, all right? I got to replay that phrase. These drawings are killing me. Am I critical? Hang on a second. Hang on.
Nuptial meaning of the body. It holds back part of what is intended by the very logic of conjugal love.
Conjugal love has no logic. There's no such thing as logical love, all right? Other than agape, okay, whatever. But it doesn't matter what you hold back or any. So stupid, okay? It's like let's say police pulled you over for speeding, and you start saying all this language of, the theology of the driver and the language of my driving, and I didn't want to be false. The guy's like, shut up, put your hands behind your back, and you keep talking, and he's like tases you and puts you in the back of the car. That's all that's going on, man. This whole thing is like tase-worthy. Figuratively.
What St. John Paul II calls the language or the nuptial meaning of the body. It holds back part of what is intended by the very logic of conjugal love.
So they're saying that's essential.
This doesn't mean that the church expects every act of sexual intercourse between married persons to be procreative.
Married persons. God, I wonder why don't we just say spouses or people? No, married persons. You have to say that with a pronunciation on your P. Married persons, because persons are deep and meaningful, and everyone has to talk about the personal personhood of personalism in the JP2. Okay, so married persons. What? I forgot. I got distracted. So I'm going to make this point again. Hold on a second. What was it?
Logic of conjugal love. This doesn't mean that the church expects every act of sexual intercourse between married persons to be procreative.
Obviously not. You don't have to max out babies, which is what the Sacred Penitentiary said in 1853. It doesn't matter if you seek the procreative window or not. What matters is if it's in accord with nature. The act is accord with nature, which means you are putting procreation primary, not love primary, or speaking the love language, or speaking the integral unity hoo-ha of your body language and whatever. It's called oriented toward procreation is nature. Everything else is homo. 101, trans, divorce, annulment. You don't have to max out kids. You don't have to try to produce a bit. You don't have to produce a baby every time. So he's saying, he's doing the same thing again, like a slogan. He's like, procreation is primary. We must be oriented toward procreation, but you don't have to have a baby every time. So he's saying, no, it's not, but you have to have a baby every time. Let's listen to what else he says.
Nature doesn't even intend that.
Nature doesn't even intend that you have a baby every time you come together. Duh. But what nature does intend is that is the procreative. That's the primary purpose, the end, okay? That's what nature intends. Now, someone's talking loud outside. Let me see what's going on. Okay, situation semi-normal. Let's rewind here and get going again.
Every act of sexual intercourse between married persons to be procreative. Nature doesn't even intend that.
Like I said, nature intends procreation as the primary purpose, the essential purpose, the orientation. There is no other orientation. Unless NFP is legal, we need a legal repository for NFP, so we're calling it love, which is why you get all the gay and stuff. But I don't like the way he said it. Nature doesn't require a baby every time, but nature does require an orientation every time. They're only one. Okay? Man, these guys. So this is why we had to go through this. Now, keep going.
Clearly, there are periods each month during which a couple isn't fertile.
Clearly. Okay, so this is more gaslighting. He's trying to tell you, they're trying to make 2 + 2 = 5, and they're doing it in such a way so that you take the bait with all this slick stuff, okay?
So too, holy spouses can remain sexually active well beyond the point at which a wife ceases to be fertile.
Okay, so now they're saying there need not be any orientation towards procreation alone because, look at this. This drawing drives me nuts. Sorry. Because, look, it's not, doesn't violate nature. It doesn't offend nature. After menopause, menopause is natural. There, it's not the infertility is not in your hands. It's God's department. Okay. A lot of saints have said knock it off during pregnancy, during nursing, and during menopause, because why are you doing it? All right. But it doesn't violate nature to do it, but it's just not cool. Each of those 3 categories are a different layer, a different level of not cool, but that's why the saints will say to the spiritual man, treat your wife who's pregnant as your sister, okay? Because there's no procreation going on, all right? So in menopause, St. Augustine says back off, but it is allowed. It is natural, but it's not good. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. So anyway, so they're making the point. Look, if menopause is fine, then NFP is fine, and you can pursue. No, you can't, because you have to have the orientation, the order. But like I said, these guys have killed the order, and they're saying now that all that matters is the love language. Okay, and like Lila Rose will say, the new order is love. Love number 1, love wins.
What is required is that sexual intercourse between spouses always be procreative in type.
That's pretty good. Procreation between spouses. At least he didn't say married persons. Procreation between spouses must be procreative in type. That's required. Hold on. Let's hear it one more time. No.
Intercourse between spouses always be procreative in type.
Procreative in type, yeah, but it means it has to be procreative in orientation, which is not in type necessarily. I guess it's the same thing. If your conjugal act is not natural, it's because it's not procreative in orientation.
A couple should be open to God's plan for marriage in each act, even if there's only a low possibility or no possibility.
A couple should be open to God's plan.
Should be open to God's plan for marriage.
Okay, not a couple shouldn't be open to God's plan for marriage. A couple must accept, embrace, do consent to God's plan for marriage. God's plan for marriage is consent to it. Okay, define it. God's plan for marriage, dude. Father Pine, the plan for marriage, we have to define it first. In other words, just accept what marriage is first. And if marriage is love, you can't accept it, nor can you consent to it, because it doesn't exist in reality. It's just in the air, okay? Hang on.
Always be procreative in type. A couple should be open to God's plan for marriage in each act, even if there's only a low possibility or no possibility.
They're saying, basically they're trying to, he's open to God's plan. That's code for just do your thing, all right, as long as you're open to life. No, you have to be oriented toward. Open to life is some Protestant slogan. Oriented toward life, not oriented toward love. But this guy says, oh, it's both. So procreation is secondary. It's like It's all about the order of love, and the secondary end is procreation if it happens. It's the byproduct of our love. Wrong. Life-giving love, as they say. No, it's a life-giving contract, okay? Or a love-giving. It comes from the contract is where everything flows from, not the love.
That this act will result in conception. In this way, they can be said to cooperate with the design of nature rather than to impose their non-procreative will upon it.
Woo! Is that obviously stupid or what? Impose their non-procreative will upon it. That's all family planning is. You are planning your non-procreative will. Duh. But again, they sandwich all these words. This is not ex-temp speaking. He's got this written down. He's reading a teleprompter.
Low possibility or no possibility that this act will result in conception. In this way, they can be said to cooperate with the design of nature rather than to impose their non-procreative will upon it. This brings us to the mutual support of the spouses. Marriage and sexual intercourse within marriage is also ordered to a unitive end.
No, sorry. You guys already know this by now. It's also ordered to the unitive end. No, it is not. That has never been said in the history of Christianity until contraception got legalized, and then that's where the baby production became a duty, and the only way to intellectually support contraception is to say it's for more than just babies. Who says that? Really loud and clear, Margaret Sanger. She says procreation is secondary. Love wins came first out of the mouth of Margaret Sanger in the popular culture. That's where it comes from. This whole thing is Margaret Sanger 101. I should have put that in there too. Sorry to keep rewinding. I got to keep going.
This brings us to the mutual support of the spouses. Marriage and sexual intercourse within marriage is also ordered to a unitive end, to the nourishing of the love of spouses for each other.
Oh, okay. If the office of nature is the unitive end, and he's saying it's the nourishing of love. That's the unitive end. And marriage is ordered toward that. And marriage is an office of nature. Therefore, nature, it's not an office of human nature. It's an office of nature. So the elephants, the zebras, and the bugs are all trying to work on their love because that's nature. Nope. Sorry to pour cold water over your hearts there, baby. Nuh-uh. There's no orientation towards love. Doesn't exist. It's fake and gay to the max, and marriage is gone if you do this, because there is nothing to define, defend, and the family, those little kids get their parents divorce. Those kids turn queer because they get turned over to the state. The state owns your kids because the parents thought they did, until the fact it turns out they're mere civil effects, because the church, the ecclesiastical judge, can no longer judge a case which is made out of love, okay? Right?
Acts of sexual intercourse can be taken to ratify or reaffirm spouses' marital consent.
More Christopher West 101 super goo. Yeah. He just said the conjugal act ratifies the marriage vows or something like that. Wait a minute.
Love of spouses for each other. Acts of sexual intercourse can be taken to ratify or reaffirm spouses' marital consent.
Can be taken. Can be, but they don't have to be, but they can be taken to ratify or reaffirm consent. No, consent is ratified at the wedding. That's where consent is ratified one time. And then ratium, whatever the word is. So when you consummate. By the way, consummation is undefined after Vatican II, and the new code says you have to do it in a human manner, which is undefined. So you can't the consummation of the marriage takes place only after death, only right at death. That's when marriage is consummated, because it's a partnership of life and love and all this stuff, right? So no, the conjugal act is simply the exercising of conjugal rights. It does not ratify jack. It doesn't renew vows. No. Nothing. Has nothing to do with that. But these guys, that's why that whole topic is really tricky to get into. And I'll work on it over time. It takes me a while to get this stuff. It took me years to get this far. I think that song took 18 years to get this far.
Acts of sexual intercourse can be taken to ratify or reaffirm spouses' marital consent.
Consent. Oh, shut up. No, no, no. That's so bad. Consent, one time at the altar. There was never a thing called marital rape ever in the history of the world until Vatican II, because you have to have consent every time. This is why marital debt is gone. Bye-bye. See ya. He's going to talk about it in a minute. He's wrong, because now you have to have consent every time instead of one time. So you don't have a right to the debt. You don't have a right to anything. You have a right to pursue love, and you have a right to get love on your terms. Otherwise, it's not love. That's why all this love language, marriage counseling.
In older formulations, you might also hear it said that sexual intercourse between married persons can be used to cool concupiscence.
Married persons can be used to cool concupiscence. Well, yeah, it's a remedy for concupiscence. That's a secondary end, okay? That's a secondary end. I told you this comes rapid fire. We're only 3 minutes, halfway through his video. Woo!
This is the context for understanding the marriage debt.
No!
Spouses have,
No!
in a certain sense, married persons can be used to cool concupiscence.
Cool concupiscence.
This is the context for understanding the marriage debt.
No, it's not the context for understanding. Whenever you hear that word context, run the other way, okay? That's just code for I'm going to say 2 + 2 is 5, and I'm going to give you context because you're too stupid to get it, and I'm super smart. That's all that means. Marital debt is the right over the body for acts which are of themselves suitable for the generation of children, not suitable for the cooling of concupiscence. All right? That may or may not happen, and we're going to get into that in the notes from Aquinas himself, that these guys are co-opting to get with their homo garbage, but I talk too much.
Spouses have, in a certain sense, a right to each other's bodies.
Spouses, I told you we got to go slow. This is rapid fire crazy. Spouses have, in a certain sense, the right to each other's bodies. Just a minute.
Understanding the marriage debt. Spouses have, in a certain sense, a right to each other's bodies.
Spouses have, in a legal sense, not a certain sense, they do have a right to each other's body. That's right. That's the primary right. That's all the marriage contract is, the right over the body for acts suitable, or in and of themselves suitable for the generation of children. It doesn't need any admixture of anything. Zero love required. The acts, it's the biology. That's it.
The church is sensible in her understanding of human woundedness and weakness.
Yeah, okay. Now he's setting us up for more gaslighting somehow. The church is sensible in her understanding of human weakness and woundedness. Like Christopher West says, like he says through Juan Corpus Delecta, we are all so deeply wounded in our sexuality.
Spouses may struggle with chastity in such a way that, left without sexual intercourse for a long time, they are at risk of falling into sexual sin. And so spouses can claim the marriage debt as a way to avoid peril.
So in the notes, we're going to go to supplement Q 464A1. Maybe we could do that now just because. We'll go through that. Listen what he did. So he says,
can claim the marriage debt as a way to avoid peril.
Yes, they can claim the marriage debt as a way to avoid peril, a.k.a. committing adultery or something, but it's a venial sin when you do that, okay? Because they're just doing it to not commit adultery somewhere, all right? But it has to be done oriented toward procreation, or it's a venial sin. But if you do so using a method to, in such a way, have no babies, that's mortal sin. Always a mortal sin. Sleight of hand, very sleight of hand. I guess we'll keep going in the video because we're going to get to those notes in a minute. And I'll show you exactly what he says in the little section whatever it was. What is it? Supplemental Q.
Can claim the marriage debt as a way to avoid peril.
Yeah. So he's tricky in what he says. Okay, I think I already talked about that, but we're going to talk about this supplemental QA1. Just stay with me.
Obviously, spouses should never simply use each other's bodies. Inordinate concupiscence can imperil the goodness of sexual intercourse even between spouses.
This is more Christopher West crazy. Spouses, so he's trying to say that having the marital debt is using. You have a right. Okay. If you get in your car and drive it somewhere, are you just using your car? You have a right to it, all right? So, charity and clarity, you have charity to your spouse, but you're exercising your right. It's called marriage, all right? It's like, what if the husband just works and are you just using your husband for money? It's part of his job. He's got to do it. Are you just using your wife to have babies? Part of her job. She's got to do that. That's it. Ah.
Inordinate concupiscence can imperil the goodness of sexual intercourse.
Inordinate concupiscence. Well, can imperil the what?
Sexual intercourse even between spouses. Sexual intercourse even between spouses. Imperil the goodness of sexual intercourse.
The goodness. Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't care about the goodness necessarily because that's not part of the legal definition. Goodness, badness, yeah, all right, fine. In other words, if you're not cool to your wife or husband, it might not be good, but
even between spouses. So too, both spouses should try to live marital chastity better and better as they work towards virtuous integration.
What? Oh man, I don't even know if I can figure that one out. Hold on. He's trying to communicate. Wait a minute. We'll get there. I may have to push pause and let my brain work on this one.
Spouses should try to live marital chastity better and better as they work towards virtuous integration.
Okay, so what he's trying to say is we got to have unity. That means we got to have everyone on the same page, okay? Because marriage is not consent. Marriage is consent to keep consenting all the time, all right? So we need to be integrated. What did he say? Whoa, it sounded so good. Oh, boy.
Marital chastity better and better as they work towards virtuous integration.
Virtuous integration, not just integration. What is virtuous integration? In other words, I guess they're trying to say husband and wife need to be on the same page about everything. Well, they don't need to be, but they should be. It'd be nice, but they need to honor the contract, which is the marriage debt. That's it. And oriented toward procreation every time. That's it. All this, whatever. So they throw in these buzzwords. Like I said, he's trying to take, Aquinas would be like knocking chairs over at this point.
Finally, a word about the coordination of these two ends.
Finally. Okay, this is juicy. He's a lot of these videos start off slow and ramp up, and this is coming at us faster now than ever.
In the current language of the church, we typically refer to the ends of procreation and education of children and mutual support of the spouses.
In the current language of the church, the ends. Okay, the mutual support of the spouses. Okay, whatever, dude. Secondary ends are what they are. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it remedy of concupiscence and mutual aid, or you can call it good of the spouses. It's all the same thing. It's secondary. It's dependent. Procreation and education is independent. It's the only thing you have to have. The rest flows from it. But now they're saying these two are equal. So marriage has no primary purpose, which means it's not nature if you go with what Father Gregory Pine is dishing out.
Without differentiation between them. St. Thomas, though, refers to these respectively as between them. St. Thomas, with the language of the church, we typically refer to the ends of procreation and education of children and mutual support of the spouses without differentiation between them.
Without differentiation, so they have to all be together, which means they're both dependent, which is not Catholic, totally frickin' homo 101. Procreation and help, as in good, as in charity, you can't differentiate between the two. They are locked together. Wrong, super wrong. What's locked together is Christ and his church. What's locked together is husband and wife in the contract because they're one flesh. One flesh is a supernatural reality. It's not anything to do with how you feel or anything, because that is Christ and his church is the sign of husband and wife, but it is not the physical contract. All right. These guys are saying It is. These guys are taking the broad, wide definition of marriage, which marriage is everything under the sun. Marriage is everything under 5,000 feet. Okay. What, everything you could possibly think of has anything to do with marriage. Date night, foot rubs, sharing toothbrushes, laughing, joking, going to church together, white picket fences, doing the laundry, helping each other out. Everything you could possibly think of is marriage. Wrong. It's restricted to the right over the body for X. That's all it is. So these guys, because they want their homo, they want their NFP, and now they want their annulment. They're trying to give the Catholics everything the world gives by bending nature, which is why you'll never stop trans until you stop NFP. Someone get the memo to Michael Knowles, who wants to eradicate the transgender ideology. You are dead in your tracks on that, Michael Knowles, until you condemn NFP. But he's got that book, Speechless: Controlling Words, Controlling Minds. Michael Knowles has had his mind controlled by this Vatican II speak. He's close, but he's not quite. He's still goofed up. I got another little Michael Knowles. You know what? Maybe I'll find it real quick for you. Okay, I found it. This is an example, classic. So Michael Knowles has been getting better and better on his reason of purpose of marriage stuff, but he still leaves the barn door open for trans ideology with his definition of why contraception is wrong. Listen to this.
I refer to lies as contraceptive speech. He said, contraceptive speech. What does that mean? He said, well, just as the purpose of sex is procreation, and one of the reasons that contraception is a little sus, a little dubious, is immoral, is because it forecloses the purpose of the act.
One of the reasons contraception is immoral is because it forecloses the purpose of the act. No, that is the only reason. Okay, so Michael Knowles is saying there's two purposes, two equal natures to marriage. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Okay, you can have a trans ideology this way. Just for kicks, we'll listen to that one more time.
He said, well, you know, Michael, I refer to lies as contraceptive speech. He said, contraceptive speech, what does that mean? He said, well, just as the purpose of sex is procreation, and one of the reasons that contraception is a little sus, a little dubious, is immoral, is because it forecloses the purpose of the act.
So he says one of the reasons. So he's admitting there is more than one purpose to the act per nature, per the institution of marriage. He's totally wrong. He cannot back out of it because his name will be mud because he has to kill his NFP. Not that he uses it or anything, but he can't get along with anybody Catholic that he knows. No more friends. He's friends with Skater Bro, Timothy Gordon. He's friends with a bunch of these guys. They're going to kill him. He can't go there. So he says one of the purposes. All right, so that's that. Let's get back to Gregory Pine here, okay? All right. Keep going. Here we go.
St. Thomas, though, refers to these respectively as the primary and secondary ends of marriage.
Yeah, okay. That's because that's what they are. And primary means independent, as you know. Say it with me, class. Secondary means dependent. There's no way around it, and I'll go through that in the notes if I can keep my brain together that long, where Aquinas says procreation is primary and secondary is the rest of it, and secondary is dependent. In other words, he'll say primary is independent. That's not politically correct. Nobody says that anymore. When you say that secondary, or when you say primary is dependent on mutual spouses, you are violating nature. You're trashing marriage. You're inviting the trans ideology and the homo. You can't. It's like, I'll shut up. Here we go.
In his estimation, it's clear that sexual intercourse is for children.
In his estimation, modernist alert. Woo woo! Alert! Alert! In his estimation, we don't care about his estimation. We care about nature. We care about church teaching. We care about reality. Now, these guys all operate on the premise that nature changes, our understanding changes. It's like, well, Augustine thought this, Aquinas thought that, Alphonsus thought this, Ignatius thought that, and all these guys developed and blah, blah. Oh, shut up. From the beginning, it was not so. Christ never changes. Nature never changes. Marriage never changes. I don't care how smart you are or how dumb you are. Fixed. Unchanging. So if Aquinas didn't have oh, shoot. Someone's calling me. Just a minute. Hang on a second. Look, John, I'll put you on. There you are, right there. All right, hang on. I got to say hi to this guy. Just a minute. Just a minute. That was my good buddy, John from Pennsylvania. He's in the same boat as me. Got the wife doing the divorce annulment, other guy, whatever. So he likes to talk and we compare notes. Back to Aquinas, okay? Remember we were saying that it's modernism that these guys need to assert to get their 2 + 2 = 5, to get procreation not primary? Let's hear it again.
Clear that sexual intercourse is for children. This is the reason for which man and woman are created a sexually dimorphic pair and called to marriage.
Wow, we got it right. He hit the nail on the head. This is the reason, the cause. For this cause, man shall leave his family, husband, whatever. For this reason, they shall come together, cleave together, husband and wife. For this reason, it's in the Bible. That's where it comes from. For this cause. We're going to get to that later in the notes. If you're still standing by the time we're done with this video, you heavyweights. Listen, I know the videos get long. I know. Sorry, there's just a lot to cover. Take all week to listen to it. I don't care. It's worth it. I could do a 10-minute video, but it will never even scratch the surface. This is like more educational, man.
A sexually dimorphic pair and called to marriage. In the years since he wrote, though, some philosophers and theologians have worried that this emphasis sounds too animalistic.
Woo! Worried. Some philosophers and theology people have worried that this something or other sounds too animalistic. Oh, no. No, it's because we want to have gay marriage, so we need to make love wins. That's what's going on, all right? It's an office of nature. Aquinas says that's what it is, just like the animals. If you're trying to use your conjugal act to pursue love, you are below the beasts, because not even the frickin' beasts do that. Yuck. Just like the demons turn away when they see homos doing their thing, because not even the beasts do that. It's gross. Got that? This is like super modernism alert. I'm going to play that quote again just because it was so inciting.
That this emphasis sounds too animalistic. Since he wrote, though, some philosophers and theologians have worried that this emphasis sounds too animalistic.
Some philosophers and theologians worry. It sounds too... I don't care what it sounds like. It is what it is.
That it fails to distinguish human sexual activity sufficiently from that of other animals.
No, it doesn't. Unless nature has more than one purpose for the conjugal act, and it doesn't. Okay? It's procreation. Like Christopher West loves to talk about genitals for generating. Okay? They're not for other stuff. That's why the contract is for the acts suitable for the generation of children in and of themselves only. Okay? Wow.
That it loses sight of the difference made by human rationality and dignity.
Dignity, infinite dignity, anyone? That Tucho Fernandez, Cardinal Fernandez, that's all this is, infinite dignity. That's why the conjugal act now has to become spiritualized, why we have theology of the body, because if it's not about procreation alone, it's about dignity. And we can't put that in a calculator or a legal book. That's why the conjugal act to consummate a marriage now, it must be done in a human manner, and nobody will define what that means. No one ever has. So Cardinal Burke admits we can't define marriage. We haven't done it. You'll never do it unless you get rid of the NFP. It's impossible because you've got to have love in the mix, and you can't define it. That was so good, we're going to replay it. You guys are hating me, aren't you?
Human sexual activity sufficiently from that of other animals. That it loses sight of the difference made by human rationality and dignity.
Wait till we get to the notes.
A couple of Thomistic words to address these worries. First, As we've said, when St. Thomas says
They're not worries for normal people. They're worries for homos and modernists and contraceptors. Those are the only people that are worried about this because everyone else just has kids like we always did forever.
As we've said, when St. Thomas says procreation and education of children, he does not mean mere baby making.
How stupid is this? More gaslighting. When he says procreation and education of children, he does not mean mere baby making. He means baby making and education. All right. Duh. Hello. He means mere baby making and mere education. That's all he means. Raising them in the faith. That's all that means. But this guy is trying to gaslight you into thinking it means love wins.
He means something more like saint making, a profoundly human task.
Correct. Saint making. Yes. Okay. So, however, St. Thomas Aquinas also says that the procreation and education of children is something all animals do. They educate their kids too in what they need to do to survive. All right. Thrive. Elephants teach their kids. They don't just produce the baby elephant and say, see ya. Go mix it up with the lions out there. Let me know how it goes. No, they take care of everybody and they educate their own kids, just like we educate our kids, but we educate them in the faith. Okay, so yes, you want to make them into this a saint, right? So our education is different than elephant education, but it's how should I put this? A natural marriage, you have to educate your kids, but you have to educate them in just nature, okay? Because what if you don't believe in God? Atheists can get married naturally. It's natural. It's just not sacramental. So you have to educate them to get to heaven, but that's not the nature part of it. It's the supernature part of it. Hope I'm clear on that. Here, let's keep going.
Procreation and education of children requires that parents furnish a child with the relationships and goods that lead them all the way to heaven.
No, it does not. This is what they are trying to do. This is more 2 + 2 = 5. They are saying that education of children requires a good relationship. No, it doesn't. Education of children means you agree to raise them Catholic and not Buddhist and not secular. That's all it means. You can do a good job or a bad job. But the restricted legal definition of marriage is raise the kids Catholic. Are you going to say I do to that? Do you have to be how Catholic do you have to be to do that? You actually don't. You just have to say yes to it. Let's see what he said again.
Parents furnish a child with the relationships and goods that lead them all the way to heaven. Parents furnish a child with the relationships and goods that lead them all the way to heaven.
You want that, but you don't have to get them to heaven. You don't have to have the relationships, but you sure as heck should try, okay? You better die trying, but you don't have to. So this is the problem, because they're saying, yes, love wins, says you have to, because God is love, so you have to have all this stuff, which means when something is a little less than groovy in the marriage, they're saying it's invalid, which totally blows apart all this nice family structure security stuff, because these people right here, wherever they are, these guys, and I can't point right, these people right here in the video, they have no security for their kids because the foundation of what they're doing is mush. It's love mush. Right? That's my quote me on that.
Second, the idea of two undifferentiated ends requires, of its nature, further specification.
He's reading a teleprompter so hard. What did he just say? Wait. Hang on a second.
The idea of two undifferentiated ends requires, of its nature, further specification.
Two undifferentiated ends requires of its nature. So they want it. This is more gaslighting. Hey, we're totally on the side of nature here. Nature, anyone? We want more nature? Yeah. It's all supernatural. No. The nature of partnership is not the nature of marriage. The nature of two equal ends is not the nature of marriage. It's just the nature of two equal ends, which is not nature. All right? Even St. Thomas Aquinas says that. So, FYI.
requires of its nature further specification. For two ends to function effectively as causes,
I'm just doing this slow because we need to. For two ends to function effectively as causes. That's like saying to be able to fly to Chicago and Detroit at the same time, we have to figure out a way to make this effective. How are we going to do it? You can't. One has to be primary, okay? It's like we're open to going to Chicago, but our foundation is Detroit. Motown, Detroit Rock City.
they must be either identified one with the other or subordinated one to the other.
Correct. What he's saying is they need to be codependent or one needs to be independent. That's all he is saying. He doesn't use those words, but those are canonical words. Those are the words of the church. One end is independent, procreation, and the other ends are dependent. They depend on procreation. But he's saying, well, we're either going to have them codependent or independent. So let's see what he says next. How does he get his way out of this legal pretzel?
In this case, the latter proves true.
In this case, the latter proves true. I told you why we have to go slow, because this is machine gun modernism super fast. Let's listen to it again so we can talk.
Subordinated one to the other. In this case,
Whoa. Hold on.
specification. For two ends to function effectively as causes, they must be either identified one with the other or subordinated one to the other. In this case, the latter proves true.
Okay, so he's saying of the two ends, one must be subordinated to the other. All right? Sounds good, doesn't it? The subordination, just like Casti Canubi 59 says, it's only natural if the ends are properly ordered. So the secondary ends are subordinate to procreation, okay? You have to be oriented toward procreation, not open to it. Open to life means procreation secondary. We have to be oriented toward primary. So he's saying, we think, per Aquinas, that there must be a primary and a secondary end with secondary subordinate and not independent. That's what he just said. Good. Let's see what he says next.
To those worried about the subordination of the mutual support of the spouses,
Wait. So he just said we're going to have a hierarchy of ends with subordination. Now he says, for those worried about this, but this is where he does the about face. What he's going to now tell us is procreation is secondary. This is where the rubber meets the road. He has built us up with all this slippery language to basically tell us procreation is secondary, homo wins. But he's not going to come out and say it, and I'm going to point it out to you right now in his own words.
in this case, the latter proves true. To those worried about the subordination of the mutual support of the spouses, have no fear. Secondary in this case doesn't mean accessory or unimportant.
Okay, this is even hard for me to think about what he was just saying. He goes, for those worried about the subordination of the secondary ends, have no fear. If you're worried that the secondary ends are subordinate, have no fear. What he's saying is, if you're a feminist and you're offended by the fact that procreation alone is primary and you have to have babies, have no fear, because we got you, feminist. Check it out. Listen to what I'm going to say.
Ordination of the mutual support of the spouses, have no fear. Secondary in this case doesn't mean accessory or unimportant.
Secondary doesn't mean accessory or unimportant. Fine. It does mean dependent, and it means not independent, which means procreation alone must be the orientation. Otherwise, it's dependent. And we can't have a dependent primary purpose. It doesn't exist. It's like putting your car in reverse to drive forward. No. I'm open to driving forward while I'm in reverse. No. You have to orient the right way. We're going to have to go over this a few times to get it right.
It just means that the unitive end is to be pursued within a conjugal life.
Woo! Okay. Oh, this is juicy. The unitive end. This is love wins right here. We had to get to the end of the line. He has softened you up with his little wooden meat tenderizer thing with all the points on the end. You know that little hammer your mom used to use? Yeah. Now you're gonna soaking up his words because you want your Aquinas and you want your NFP and maybe a little homo marriage on the side. And how about an annulment for lack of love? And maybe like a no sin divorce because I'm doing this because divorce isn't a sin because it doesn't violate the contract because marriage is so much bigger than law.
Important. It just means that the unitive end is to be pursued within a conjugal life ordered ultimately to the procreative end.
Oh, there's the kid from King of the Hill again, Mark, whatever his name is. This little soundbite that just whiffed by like a fastball pitch is where he just overturned the hierarchy of ends. Hold on.
Unitive end is to be pursued within a conjugal.
The unitive end is to be pursued. No, it's not. The unitive end, whatever that is, that's a secondary end. That means the flesh. Horses and mule over which the devil hath power, okay? That's why it's a venial sin to pursue the unitive end. It's a mortal sin to pursue it in such a way that you eliminate or try to eliminate procreation. So just no family planning, it's a venial sin. Yes, family planning, mortal sin. He is telling you the order is secondary number one, secondary primary, secondary independent. Love wins right here.
The unitive end is to be pursued within a conjugal life ordered ultimately to the procreative end.
The unitive end is to be pursued ordered to the procreative end. This is the nutso wacko way of saying it's not killing grandma, it's euthanasia, or it's not it's more wordsmithing. I got to play it again. He's saying the unitive end is oriented toward procreation. In other words, oh yeah, order towards procreation, that's Aquinas. Okay. No. The procreation is where the order is, and unity flows from that. If you want to call it unity, that's a euphemistic buzzword for flesh. That's all it is. Remedy of concupiscence, mutual help. Whatever you get out of it, the act, it's secondary. You're ordered towards the baby. So this picture should have the babies up top and this mutual stuff down below. Hang on a minute. I told you it came fast and furious.
Important. It just means that the unitive end is to be pursued.
The unitive end is to be pursued. Sorry to be redundant. No, the unitive end is to be not pursued. Procreation alone is to be pursued every time. Only. If you want to keep the marriage act honest, otherwise it's just a form of fornication because you're not trying to have procreation education. You're pursuing yourself, your flesh, which is what prostitution is. That's why they call it prostitution when you use NFP in Casti Canubi 68 or whatever. Hang on.
Within a conjugal life, ordered ultimately to the procreative end.
Ordered ultimately to the procreative end. So where is it ordered not ultimately? It's ordered to self, dude. Horse and mule. Conjugal act is all about self. Me, me, me. I have a right to go to the spouses. It's the orientation. He said ordered ultimately. What the heck? No. No. The conjugal act is ordered towards kids. He's saying the conjugal act is ordered toward secondary ends. And if kids happen, fine. Therefore, secondary ends are primary. Someone's got to point this out. He has nowhere to hide. Father Gregory Pine, mega busted. Pervert. Totally. Because you are perverting the ends with your fancy little drawings and your rapid fire theological goo.
This is part of the argument against homosexual inclinations.
This is part of the argument against homosexual inclinations. Just like Michael Knowles says, this is part of the reason contraception is wrong because it blocks the procreation. No, that is the only reason it's wrong. Okay? So he just said, this is part of the reason why homo is wrong. No, it's the only reason. I'm talking too much. Let me get this straight.
Part of the argument against homosexual inclinations and acts, namely that this order is lacking. In effect, the general trajectory of ultimately to the procreative end. This is part of the argument against homosexual inclinations and acts, namely that this order is lacking.
Okay. Wrong. He's saying sodomy is wrong because this order is lacking. No, it's perfectly ordered. Hello, love wins, dog. What do you think the homos are after? They're after the secondary ends, okay? They're open to life. God can work with anything. God can make babies happen if he wants to. He can. I'm homo. I'm not getting in God's way. I'm cooperating with God's plan. God is love. Marriage is love. It's in the Bible. We're working on our mutual love. If babies happen, so be it. But if they don't, and we're using our NFP, so we're using our bodies to pursue love and get rid of babies because we don't want any babies right now. Sounds homo to me. Little transgender. It's nature, dude. Love is nature. Okay. And love never changes? Really? What I think love is never changes? Oh, yeah? No. Nature is up for grabs. Therefore, homo is fine. Everyone said as soon as you start legalizing contraception and NFP, there's not everyone, a lot of people criticized in the 50s are like, this is going to usher in homo because if marriage isn't for procreation, dude, it's for whatever you want. So bring in the clowns.
In effect, the general trajectory of married love
In effect, the general trajectory of married love. Wow. There's another mouthful of more goo right there. In effect, the general trajectory? No. In law, the orientation of marriage is procreation. But he said, it's like saying, I kind of sort of maybe sort of kind of sort of a little bit kind of try to maybe to kind of, I don't know, in effect, sort of maybe thought about you. That's all he's saying. He's like totally gaslighting and just trying to communicate. 2 + 2 isn't 5. It's just sort of like a really nice number that's kind of like close to 5, but it's not really. But that's what he's doing. Hold on.
needs always and everywhere to be procreative.
What did he say? Just a minute.
That this order is lacking. In effect, the general trajectory of married love needs always and everywhere to be procreative.
The general trajectory of married love. Wrong. The general trajectory, the specific trajectory, aka orientation, of the conjugal act must always be procreation. There is no such thing as married love must be for procreation, because now you are saying something called married love is primary, is the essence, is the contract. No. Otherwise, love wins. Homo, here we come. Sorry, bro. It sounds good. We're all so messed up today. You look Irish and German just like me, actually. This guy kind of does. Father Gregory Pine. Isn't Pine Irish?
Married love needs always and everywhere to be procreative. Otherwise, we cannot differentiate the love expressed in marriage from
Otherwise, we can't differentiate the love expressed in marriage. He's trying to have his cake and eat it too. He's trying to say, look, love wins, but it only wins for heterosexuals. Sorry, it doesn't work both ways. If love wins, it wins for everybody, my dog. I don't mean to call a priest my dog. That's not cool.
that expressed in other relationships. The general trajectory of married love needs always and everywhere to be procreative. Otherwise, we cannot differentiate the love expressed in marriage from that expressed in other relationships.
Fine. It's got to be procreative, but it's not, like I said, he's putting the cart before the horse. Love flows from procreation. Procreation does not flow from love. If love is number one, forget everything. Forget everything. There ain't no law. Everything is nature. Nothing matters. Margaret Sanger, W.
Thus, marriage provides a clear destination for those who enter into it.
Marriage provides a, no, thus marriage provides, no, thus marriage is totally jerked, messed up. Marriage does not provide a clear direction, because you are saying the direction is secondary ends, which we don't know what they are legally. It's pursuing your love language. It's pursuing, he's got a simp and she's got to become feminist, because that's what she's going to do naturally, and that's what he's going to do naturally to try to keep it all together. And if the husband tries to assert what's right, she'll say this isn't love. He's toast. Forget it, man. That's why so you've destroyed your legal foundation. And those kids are going to get trashed, which is what the homos want. They want to have their way with the kids, and the state takes over, because the state's the only one who can adjudicate the contract, because the bishop says, oh, what contract? There's no contract. It's just a love thing. Let the state sort out your kids. Your kids are mere civil effects. I'm the bishop. You get married in the church sacramentally. You know that contract thing? Forget you. Let the state turn your kids homo for me. I don't care. In fact, that'd be fine. That's a little of what's going on. Sorry to be quite like that. You know what I'm saying? You have no right to educate your kids because the state says it can be taken from you. And the bishop says, yeah, that's correct. The state can take away your right to educate your kids, which is given to you by God, and I can't do anything about it. Wrong. You can deny communion to those who take away those rights. Oh, no, they're not rights, because love is the only thing that we have a right to.
And other relationships. Thus, marriage provides a clear destination for those who enter into it. Marriage is ordered to children and to the upbuilding of conjugal life for the good of the family.
Marriage is ordered to children and the upbringing of conjugal life. Okay, so there's your not clear direction. It's ordered to children, and it's ordered to the upbringing of whatever he said. The upbringing of conjugal, what did he say? Hang on.
For the good of the family, the polity, and the church. The conjugal life for the good of the family, the polity, and the children, and to the upbuilding of conjugal life.
It's ordered to the upbuilding of conjugal life. I'm being redundant and repetitive so you guys get it. Marriage is ordered toward procreation and nothing else. Okay? So if you start saying, look, oh, man. Oh, shoot. I messed up. Just a minute. Oh, it's him again. No way. Almost done, kids. And then we get to go through our notes. Okay? Not that you were falling asleep or anything.
Conjugal life for the good of the family, the polity, and the church. Thus, with the destination fixed.
With the destination not fixed, with the destination variable, as it says in Casti Connubii 53 or 4, I think it says, the natural destiny of the conjugal act is procreation. Natural destiny, procreation. This guy is saying your natural destiny is good of the spouses, which can be anyone's legal definition. It's how they feel. What's good for me? Speak my love language. I have a right for you to give me what I want to feel like. And if you're not making me feel how I want to feel, you're not loving, and this marriage is over, and you're not capable. Annulment and no sin divorce. Those kids, sorry about that. Sorry about the kids. That's all that's going on. These guys are enemies of marriage. Casti Connubii 78, because they give the contract to the state, because they say there is no contract. It's just this love covenant.
Christian men and women can navigate their way through various difficulties in life, claiming for themselves a healthy understanding of the sacrament of marriage.
Wrong. Claiming for themselves nothing except the Princess Bride definition of marriage. That blessed arrangement, a dweem within a dweem. That's all it is. Okay. They got nothing. They got marriage counselors to help them, which is nothing. It's just more feminist counseling. I think that's it, you guys.
For Readings Podcast.
Finally. All right, let's go to the notes real quick, okay? Show notes, your favorite part. We're going to follow up on all these things I've been asserting. So here's the Thomistic Institute in D.C. Catholic truth in a contemporary world. Is there another kind of world that's not contemporary? But when you see that word contemporary, guard up, okay? What they're trying to say is we're going to make Catholicism fit the new groove. The Emperor's new groove, Aquinas' new groove. Catholic truth in a contemporary world. So we're schmoozing it along. Okay. Thomistic Institute exists to promote Catholic truth in our contemporary world. That's all you got to know. They are taking Aquinas and contorting him so that he sounds plausible to modernism. And you just got a serious load of it in that video, didn't you? All right. Mark 10. Like I said, for this cause, a man shall leave his father and mother. What is this cause? You have to answer that question if you want to define marriage, if you want to get anything straight. For this cause. Okay, the cause is not love. He made them male and female for a reason. That reason is procreation. That's why. For this cause, okay? That's what it is. Cleave to it, and they shall become one flesh. Okay. There. Okay. No. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. And the reason for that was because it's for, like you said, Casti 54, the conjugal act is destined primarily for the begetting of children. All right. Marriage is for life because kids need mom and dad together for life. That's why, because for this cause, that cause is procreation. This Father Pine guy, Father Gregory Pine, says this cause is love wins, baby. Homo. Continuing, Canon 1055, this marriage covenant. I think we've already talked about this. Okay, yeah, this is where they take what he said and put it into law. He says, remember he talked about the nature of love or the nature of conjugal love? No. So here we got the marriage covenant is a partnership. And we're going to talk about the nature of the partnership. You can talk about the nature of the partnership all you want. It's not the nature of marriage. Marriage is not a partnership, okay? Although you can try to establish a partnership or whatever in your marriage covenant, okay? But the contract is the right over the body. So the nature of the contract is biology. That's what it is. Biology of the body. All right, so if you want to have a partnership for well-being of spouses, knock yourself out, but that's not the legal definition of marriage. So we have to, when canon law gets weird, gets poetic, gets evasive, has a lacuna, you got to go back to what was there previously, which is the old code. I'll spell it out. The reason they totally smashed all the language, like this guy, Father Gregory Pine smashed all the language in his video, is because procreation is secondary now, and 2 + 2 is 5. And that's what they want. And you have to trash words to get there. And that's all that Canon 1055 is. Word trash. Aquinas, matrimony is instituted. That's an important word. Both as an office of nature, all right, and as a sacrament. So that's where you get the educate the kids to get to heaven part. But it's an office of nature. Nature educates kids too. And it's not an office of human nature, but just regular nature. An office of nature is directed by 2 things, like every other virtuous act. Okay, what are the 2 things that an office of nature is directed to? One of these is required on the part of the agent. That means one spouse is required one thing, and that is the intention of the due end. What is the intention of the due end of the office of nature, aka marriage? And thus offspring is accounted a good of matrimony. So the one spouse who is getting together in the conjugal act must be pursuing what is due by nature, offspring. Okay. The other is required on the part of the act, which is good generically through being about a due matter. And thus we have faith, whereby as man has intercourse with his wife. So the other part is you have permanence, okay? Or if you want to call the paying of the debt, whatever, it's permanent, due matter. So of the other part of the act. Now, Here we already went through this contra gentiles, didn't we? Yes, we did. 59. Okay, perversion of the right order. Boy, oh boy. Guess what? This condemns NFP and they call it a sin. Deter their partner from sin. Someone who perverts the right order is sinning. That's onanism. That's NFP. This does not pertain to contraception, artificial, because that is always wrong, and you cannot artificial contraception cannot be consented to, cannot be permitted, cannot be reluctantly allowed. But NFP can, because it starts off natural. Just like onanism can be reluctantly allowed because it starts off naturally. Okay? It's the perversion of the right order. These guys, Father Gregory Pine is a pervert. He's perverted the right order, just like the guy in the video last week. You know, the guy who cut his hair finally with the guitar in the background, whatever his name is. I'll think of it. I can't remember. You guys can remind me. Whatever. I'll think of it. So there's that. We've been through that one a lot. Oh, as you know, anything I say you don't like, you and I can talk in the comment section all year long. No problem. I'll talk to you on the phone. I'll talk to you on email. In a train, in the rain, on a bus, in a bus, whatever. So long as they are subordinated to the primary. Okay, yeah, this is pretty good. So you can pursue the secondary ends. Like he said, marriage is ordered toward the secondary ends, ultimately ordered toward procreation. No. That's a perversion. You pervert. So long as they are subordinated to the primary end, and so long as the intrinsic nature of the act is preserved. So normal acts oriented toward procreation. But then look at the Latin translation of that. For there are secondary ends. Listen, the Latin says the intrinsic nature. The Latin says the intrinsic nature of that act, and therefore its due ordination to the primary end, is always preserved. So if you want a natural conjugal act, it's only natural if its due ordination to the primary end is preserved. Okay? That means you are not trying to not get pregnant with your act. And when you use family planning, I don't care what kind it is, you are trying to not get pregnant. So it violates nature to use natural family planning, which is a total euphemism, which is all that's going on here. It's like you can buy garbage food that says 100% natural on the label. Right. Okay, ratify. He talked about ratifying your conjugal act. Ratifying your vows, right? Ratify means to sign. When you do the conjugal act, you're ratifying your vows. Nope. To sign, give formal consent. Treaty, contract, or agreement, making it officially valid. Your marriage is officially valid with formal consent to a contract at the wedding. There ain't nothing else to ratify. Kind of like going to Mass isn't a rebaptism. You may renew your baptismal promises sometimes, and it's good to do that, but you cannot rebaptize yourself, and you cannot re-ratify your vows. Question 64, things annexed to marriage, first payment of the marriage debt. So we'll go through a little marriage debt. Marriage is directed to the begetting and rearing of children, as well as to the community of life. Marriage is direct objection. Oh, wait, okay, here, look. This is Father Gregory Pine right here, an objection 4. This is the bad guy. He's saying, look, marriage is directed to the begetting of children, as well as to the community of life. That sounds like Gregory Pine, Father Gregory Pine 101, Thomistic Institute, and every NFP ever out there, and all the bishops, and all the Christopher West, and all the Scott Hahns, and everyone else who's pervert. It's directed to kids and community of life. What could be better? On the contrary, as like they say, their little newsletter said contrary, as the slave is in the power of his master, so is one spouse in the power of the other. Wow. Okay? So each spouse has the right over the other like a master to the slave, but the slave is bound by an obligation of precept to pay his master the debt of the service according to Roman. Okay, render to all that is true. So the slave is bound by an obligation of precept to pay his master. Therefore, the husband and wife are mutually bound to the payment of the marriage debt, just like slave and master. She has the right to demand the debt and he has the right to demand the debt, not the community of life. No one has the right to demand the community of life, except NFP says you do, because now it's oriented toward community of life, aka unity, aka flesh, aka whatever you want to call it. Father Gregory Pine, on the contrary, okay? Further, marriage is directed to the avoiding of fornication, but this could not be the effect of marriage if the one were not bound to pay the debt to the other when the latter is troubled with concupiscence. Therefore, the payment of the debt is an obligation of precept. Fine. It's directed to the avoiding. So he did say it's a remedy of concupiscence, but this could not be the effect of marriage. Okay. So, because procreation is the effect of marriage, if the one were not bound to pay the debt to the other one. So it's an obligation of precept is what he's saying. But it is venial sin if you're just pursuing avoiding fornication. If that's your goal, that's venial sin. If you use a family planning method while doing that, that's mortal sin. Okay, then St. Thomas Aquinas says, marriage was instituted. That's an important word. Marriage it doesn't say the meaning of marriage. It doesn't say the wide definition of marriage. It says the restricted, okay? The foundation, the constitution, the institution is especially as fulfilling an office of nature. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Office of nature. Holy cow. I shouldn't say holy cow. Where have we heard that before? Wherefore it is the act. Wherefore in its act, the movement of nature must be observed, according to which I went through this, and this is why I got to go through this with you now with all these colors, because it's a little complicated. Marriage was instituted especially for fulfilling an office of nature. Wherefore, in its act, the movement of nature must be observed, according to which the nutritive power administers to the generative power. Okay? That means oriented toward generation. That alone, which is an excess of what is required for the preservation of the individual, comma. Okay, so what he's saying is everything else is gravy. Basically, that's what he just said. That alone is which is an excess of what is required for the preservation of the individual. For the natural order requires that a thing should be perfected in itself. Okay, natural order, perfect in itself, which means primary is independent and alone. Natural order, perfected in procreation. What is in excess? Remember he said secondary is an accessory, and don't have no fear. It is accessory, actually. Okay? Because you got to use the nutritive power to administer to the generative power, not the love power, not the good of the spouse's power, the generative power. That alone, which is in excess of what is required for the preservation of individual. For the nature ordered requires that the thing should be perfected first in itself, and that afterwards it should communicate of its perfection to others. Okay? Afterwards, my bro. Father Gregory Pine, are you listening? The order is procreation, and the secondary ends come after. Okay? You are giving us perversion because you say the secondary ends come first and the procreation comes afterwards. Ultimately ordered? No. Primarily ordered. It should communicate as perfection to others, okay? As in good of the spouses comes after secondary, because marriage is perfect in procreation alone. Everything else is secondary. You don't have to have it. It's nice if you do, okay? Let's look at Joachim and Anne, Mary's parents. Perfect procreation alone. Were they totally into the secondary ends? Were they pursuing love language? No frickin' way. It was procreation, and that's it. That is the model. That is the goal. But we're all human, okay? But we got to try to be like saints. Instead of trying to be lower than the beasts and pursuing horse and mule garbage, right? where the devil hath power. That's all this guy is advocating, because I know he's an NFP guy. It's obvious. But they didn't even say NFP. But that's what his whole thing is. It's all, okay. Since the wife has power over her husband only in relation to the generative power and not in relation to the things directed to the preservation of the individual, okay, yeah. In other words, you have the right to procreation, but you do not have the right to the secondary ends, okay, without sinning. So the marriage contract is to the generation only. That's the contract. Since the wife has power over her husband only in relation to the generative power and not in relation to the things directed to the preservation of the individual, the husband is bound to pay the debt to his wife in matters pertaining to the begetting of children, with due regard, however, to his own welfare. Okay, so he is bound. He only has to pay the debt for children. If she says, it's not about the children, then you do not have to pay. So if she's using contraception, no. If she's using NFP, no. You do not have to, but you can tolerate it. Not the contraception, but the NFP. You can tolerate it as the sin, okay? So without regard to his own welfare. So if this is where they go into it later a little bit. It's like, hey, if something is going really wrong here, it's not cool to request a debt because I'm really sick or whatever, then you can hold off, all right? Reply to objection 2. The wife has no power over her husband's body except as consistent with the welfare of his person, as stated above. She has no power over except as consistent. So she can't request the debt if the husband can't provide for it or something's wrong. Wherefore, if she go beyond this in her demands, her request is not for the debt, for an unjust exaction. For this reason, the husband is not bound to satisfy her. Yeah. So in other words, you got to be reasonable. It has to be a normal conjugal act. Okay. If somebody has been, like I said, there's something unreasonable, really crazy, you can't request a debt. You don't have a right to that. This is the reply to objection. On the contrary, he says, it is written, defraud not one another except by consent for a time that you may give yourselves to prayer. So defraud not. You can't. If you defraud, you go to hell. That's mortal sin. You cannot defraud. So it better be serious. Okay. This isn't like what they're saying is no, unity first, love first, all this junk. No. It's like, I only go to church if I'm feeling unity with God. Then I go. Otherwise, no, it's not. I'd be lying with my love language to God if I went to church and I wasn't really. No, you have to get your physical body into Mass every Sunday, independent of what you're thinking at all. You have to go as a Catholic. If you're thinking good thoughts, that's cool. If you're thinking bad thoughts, that's not cool, but you still have to go. You have the right over the body no matter what you're feeling or thinking, okay? But if you're sick, that's another thing. Just like you don't have to go to Mass, you don't have to do the marital debt if you're sick, I guess. Objectively, further, as the wife has power over her husband, so a master has a slave, the slave is not bound. We already read that, I guess. Yeah. Further, no one can vow this. Okay, here. Further, no one can vow that which belongs to another. No one can vow that which belongs to another. Now, the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Therefore, without her consent, the husband cannot take a vow of continence, whether absolutely or for a time. Because she has the right for procreation, she can't, without her consent. In other words, you can't, NFP can only happen by, let me back up a second. The whole premise of NFP is love wins, therefore you can do it independently, okay? Because if you're doing it for love reasons. But no, because you have power over the body, only through consent can there be any type of continence. I think that's super clear. My brain's almost not working, so we're going to keep going. Even in the elements and okay, here we go. Even in the elements and the beasts, it is a shame to nature not to cease from generating. Even in the elements and the beasts, it is a shame to nature to not cease from generating. All right, so he's talking about, this is where he was basically saying, look, all these animals, when they know there's no babies happening, when it's not time to procreate, they don't even do it. So the beasts don't do it. So all these perverts are advocating what the beasts don't even do. St. Ambrose knows what he's talking about. Whether you eat or drink or whatever else you do, do all for the glory of God. For this remark, after eating and drinking, whatever else you do, he designated with a modest word. Okay, yeah, this is before Janet Smith just says sex all the time. That's the word they use all the time. They were trying to keep it modest, okay? Whatever else you do has designated with a modest word the immodest affairs of marriage, showing that even these acts themselves are performed to the glory of God if they are attended to with a view to posterity. Glory of God, offspring alone. If you're not pursuing offspring, you're not pursuing God, you're pursuing the horse and mule over which the devil hath power. NFP goofs you up bad. St. Clement of, which is part of why misery loves company. People who are in the gutter want people to join them. NFP people want everyone to do NFP with them. Divorce people want everyone to do divorce with them. Annulment people want everyone to do annulment with them. St. Clement of Alexandria. Marriage in itself merits esteem and the highest approval, for the Lord wished men to be fruitful and multiply. He did not tell them, however, to act like libertines, nor did he intend them to surrender themselves to pleasure as though born to indulge in sexual relations. Like the educator, Christ, who put to shame with the words of Ezekiel, put away your fornications. Why, even unreasoning beasts? No, not enough to mate at certain times. But move over, here comes Christopher West and Father Gregory Pine, that know more than the unreasoning beasts. To indulge in intercourse without intending children. What? Holy cow. No. Oh, I didn't mean to say holy cow. To indulge in intercourse without intending children is to outrage nature. Oh, like Gregory Pine is recommending, we orient towards the good of the spouses and be open to life. No, you have to, no. Intending children, not intending good of the spouses, and children are the afterthought. It's intending children and good of the spouses is the afterthought. If you do not intend children, and if you listen to Father Gregory Pine, you are outraging nature, whom we should take as our instructor, okay? Nature is our instructor. Unreasoning beasts are nature, and they know not to pursue something other than procreation. Nature is our guide. It's not the human nature. It's just nature, dude. Have kids. That's what it's for. Super basic. There ain't no argument against this except to say that truth bends over time. St. Clement of Alexandria was a really nice, well-intentioned man. But, we know so much more now, and things develop and all that groovy stuff. That's the only thing they can say, which is why they always talk about this in terms of he had his view and we have our view and we don't, whatever. Second, Aquinas. Okay, this is good. Secondly, there is in man an inclination to things that pertain to him more specially according to that nature which he has in common with other animals. And in virtue of this inclination, those things are said to belong to the natural law, which nature has taught to all animals, such as sexual intercourse, education, and offspring, and so forth. Bam! Exactly what I said in the video. Aquinas, the guy who they talk about, Aquinas is their man. Aquinas 101 pours cold water all over them. Nature is in common with the animals for procreation, okay, and education. That's all it's for. It's not for love. That's not natural. St. Augustine, undoubtedly by the eternal law which requires the preservation of the natural order and forbids transgression of it, the conjugal intercourse should take place only for the procreation of children. Wow. And after the celebration of marriage, so as to maintain the bond of peace. Exactly. So if you, like I said this in the last video with the truck driver, you want to have a normal marriage, you want to maintain the bond of peace, don't goof up nature. Have kids, husband works, wife stays home. Have a bunch of kids. You do that, things are going to work out. You start messing with it and you start speaking love language and you start family planning, you invite the devil into your house. That's exactly what you do. So just go with St. Augustine on this. Eternal law, baby. No changing it. Okay? Sorry, Father Gregory Pine. Now, this is Bobby from King of the Hill right here. This is who that little kid looked like in the video. That's all I wanted to say. Listen, we did it. You guys are so good for hanging out. Don't forget to, you can like and subscribe. Tell me what you think. So if you're not against NFP, you're not on the team. So go out there and stay toxic. And when you talk about NFP with others, you should never forget about me.
Porque si no estás conmigo, sin ti la vida no es igual. Nunca nos separaremos, no te voy a dejar de amar. Por eso yo le pido al cielo que no me vayas a olvidar. Saludos Guanajuato, Hidalgo,